11 minutes past 11 o'clock, and time to welcome our next guest in the studio. A very good morning to Tanya Sperling. Good morning to you, Tanya.
Hi, good morning, Richard.
Thank you for coming in and seeing us at Radio Verulam this morning. Now then, you are a rapid transformational therapist and hypno coach, yeah?
That's correct.
So first question is, what on earth is all that about?
What on earth is all that about? It's about helping people to let go of any kind of belief that holds them back from being the person that they want to be. And it's rapid because generally my clients only need to come and see me once. And then you get a recording of the session, and after that you just really become the person that you want to be. Let go of, for example, any belief that made you smoke, if you wanted to stop smoking, for example, or you can be the confident person that you want to be before you were, for example, not so self-confident.
Right, okay, we're going to delve into that in a little bit more detail in a moment, but with all our guests we like to find out a little bit about you first of all. So what was your journey to becoming a therapist and coach?
Well, I started entirely differently. I started in Germany by becoming an airline industry manager and studying economics. But I kind of realized that what I wanted to do was to help people. So my first stop on that journey was to go to a priest seminary. I studied at a priest seminary for 2 years until I realized that that's not the journey. Then I came to London because I thought, I'd rather work with people rather than with planes. And then I became a coach, trained to become a coach. And on that journey, I found out about hypnotherapy and a way to dive in deeper and help people even faster and quicker, more rapidly. And that's when I trained to become a rapid transformational therapist.
Was this something you always wanted to do, or did your sort of personal life or personal circumstances kind of guide you in that way? Did you have like a lack of confidence, or you wanted to stop smoking or drinking too much or whatever in the past? I mean, is it just something you've always wanted to do and help people in that way?
Well, helping people has always been something that I wanted to do. I've always been a person, people have always come to me seeking advice or just seeking a good conversation and kind of leaving the conversation feeling uplifted. So I knew I've always had something about me that helps people to understand themselves better. And the way to hypnotherapy was just more or less by coincidence that I found Marissa Peer's programs, and I thought, well, let's use this for myself. And I actually lost weight through her program. I lost 12 kilos in 12 weeks, and I thought, this works, this is really cool. And that's how I dove deeper into that way of helping people.
What's the difference between transformational therapy and hypno-coaching? Is there a difference?
There's not really a difference. They go together in a sense, because the rapid transformational therapy is like the first bit of it, in a sense, where we really dive into the client's own mind and find the reasons on why they are not the person that they want to be. Hypno-coaching then basically is the part where I accompany the client along the way, and kind of, because you still have to do your own work. It's not as if you can click a switch and all of a sudden you're a different person. What I do is I open the doors to your own subconscious mind.
I was going to pick up on that. I was going to pick up on the word rapid, because, if you make changes, be it sort of weight loss, smoking, or confidence particularly, surely that's a gradual process and not something that can be done in one meeting or one tape. Surely you build confidence, you work at doing things rather than kind of instant fix. Surely the disadvantage with an instant fix is that it can instantly unfix itself as well.
Well, the thing about the rapid is the part that happens rapidly and within the first session is the understanding. The client really gets to understand why they are the way they are. And that is what the understanding is so powerful that it starts the healing process. You can, as a client, you can basically forgive yourself for being the way you were. Like if it is that you could never stop eating chocolate, for example, and you know how very often we say to us, oh, well, that's just how I am. I can't change that. That's just me. That's how I've always been. And, that's just me. Point is, that's you because it's based on a belief that you have taken on at some stage in your life. And once you understand why and when you've taken on that belief, and that it was an age-appropriate action because you've maybe created a belief when you were 4, 5, or 6 years old. Then, and when you look back as an adult, you can understand that it made sense at the time. But now as an adult, it's not age-appropriate anymore. And so this process of understanding really helps to rapidly let go of that old belief and replace it with a new age-appropriate belief. And then the process after that, as you quite rightly said, is then training and practicing the new belief. And the mind learns by repetition. So that's why for the next 3 weeks, you'll be listening to a recording where you then practice the new age-appropriate adult belief.
So it's kind of retraining your brain, though, is it?
Yes. Retraining your mind.
And how difficult is that? If it is something like, you like eating chocolate, so you have to eat so many bars of chocolate a day, or you like going to the pub every day and you drink so many pints, or you have a packet of cigarettes a day. What's the process like? How difficult is it to do? Because if you like doing it, let's say you obviously you want to stop it because you're putting on weight or your health reasons or whatever. But I actually like smoking 20 cigarettes. Well, I don't personally, but I like smoking 20 cigarettes a day. I like drinking 10 pints of beer a day. I actually like it. I enjoy it. It's part of my life. It makes it very difficult, doesn't it, to give it up?
Well, the point is, if you really like smoking 20 cigarettes a day, you probably won't come to me to stop smoking, because the main ingredient that we need is the client's readiness and desire to change.
Right, so that's the key then.
Yes,
to this.
That's the key, exactly.
Okay, yeah.
So the client has to come to me and say, something has to change, something in my life has to change, and I know that something is me, and I know it's now, because otherwise, my life will, hit the wall. And those clients who come to me with that kind of mindset, who really want to change and who know it's something about them, sometimes they don't even know what it is. I had a client who came to me and said, something has to change, everything's falling apart, my life's falling apart, my family, I don't know what it is, but something has to change. And we figured out in the session that, the first good step would be to stop drinking alcohol. And we did a session to stop drinking alcohol, and this client then realized what the reason was, why he drank in the first place. And after the session, he also in his session apparently realized that the same reason made him smoke. And after this session, he stopped smoking, he stopped drinking, and after 11 months, he's still dry and still hasn't smoked, because his determination was so strong. And obviously, he stuck with the process to daily listen to the recording, and that is just a life-changing thing for him.
Okay, let's bring Ruth in here, because she obviously does her mindfulness stuff. I mean, how does it kind of sit with you, Ruth?
Well, yeah, it rings true in the sense that what I notice with people is that they very heavily self-identify. So like you said, kind of, I am insert smoker. I'm a worrier. I'm a whatever it is. And I remember talking about my anxiety and really like it belonged to me and it almost identified me. And I was weirdly getting some of weird enjoyment out of it, even though it was a real struggle. So what is interesting is, I guess, to help people become aware of this ego talking, of saying that I am all these things, and then through a process like yours, then being able to take action to sort of replay. I did a bit of hypnotherapy as well originally, and it was almost like the mind's been spinning almost like DVDs over and over again, right? And then it was like, so how do we take that DVD out and then put a new one in and then start practicing it? I'm really interested in this process. So basically they'll come to you, have their initial session, and then they get away and they have these recordings. So how long do they then go away with the recordings? When do they come back? Like what does a typical client journey look like in order to sort of make that change?
So the typical client journey is they come, as I said, for one session. That's generally how it is. Sometimes more difficult issues will take maybe 2 or 3 sessions, but most of my clients so far have seen me for one session. And the beauty of this kind of therapy is also that we do an intake, obviously, where I find out what it is that you want to work on, but you'll also describe to me how you want to feel. For example, let's say if you're coming because you have fear of public speaking, you've got a huge event coming up and you have to speak. What we'll do is I'll ask you to describe, how do you want to feel? How does it feel in your body, for example? How your heartbeat, your breathing, how do you want to feel all of that? Give me an example, for example, and other moments in your life where you feel as relaxed as you want to feel when you're on stage. And all these things, those descriptions, those words and images that you will give me, they will be in the recording for you, so that whenever you listen to the recording for the next 21 days, your mind is going to associate those feelings and those images with the situation that you're going to be in. And you're learning how you want to feel, and you're practicing that. And so generally during those 21 days, I will check in with the client about a week, 10 days in, to check do you have any problems, any questions, anything that you're noticing unusual that you'd like to talk about. And then afterwards, after the 3 weeks, I'll check in with them again. But usually the way it works is that clients are so amazed by the process that they actually contact me saying that, I've stopped smoking now. Can I have a session to stop drinking, please?
Right,
So that's how it usually works.
Brilliant. Okay, we're going to take a break, have a piece of music, and then we'll come back and do a little bit more with Tanya. So our guest on the programme this morning is Tanya Sperling. She's a rapid transformational therapist and hypno coach. And we'll be back to Tanya after this. Hey, that's such a good song, isn't it? That's the very lovely Fee on 92.6 this morning. Title track from the album Never. Play there especially for a friend of ours. That's Petra Hoffman, listening to the programme in Nuremberg in Germany this morning. Hope very much you're enjoying the show, Petra, and a very good morning to you. Not sure if you're in the same time as us. It could be afternoon over there. So, a very good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of our listeners online and via those wonderful radio apps around the world. So that's Fee then, and Never. 25 and a half minutes past 11. Back to our guest, Tanya Sperling, our Rapid Transformational Therapist and Hypno Coach. Now, we've been talking about people wanting to tackle issues such as smoking and drinking and weight and all that kind of stuff. But how does it work for sort of the stressful, maybe work stress? Your website mentions relationships, for example. So what kind of thing do you come across, and how does it work in respect to relationships, Tanya?
So in respect of relationships, I've had a couple of clients actually so far, for example, who said they are tired of being alone and they want to find a loving relationship, but for some reason it just doesn't work. And in those cases as well, we have a look and see what's the reason for that. What's the root cause of why can't you find a loving relationship? And in most cases, just like with all my clients where it's about confidence issues, it has usually something to do that those clients have a belief somewhere around, I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, or I don't deserve love, or I want love but it's not available to me. Mm-hmm. And so we go to those reasons, we find scenes where the client would have adopted such a belief. And we reverse that. We take that away, and we obviously implement a belief that, yes, you are lovable. You're totally lovable. The universe loves you. You come here for a reason. And the moment you start loving yourself, and that's the part of the recording then that the client will get, to understand, accept themselves as a lovable being, and loving themselves, respecting themselves, feeling worthy, they usually then go out with a different energy. They have a different vibe, and interestingly enough, they usually meet the people as well. And I've had feedback from one client as well who then said 2 months later she found someone. And so that worked for her in that sense, that she found a loving relationship.
So it's a case of kind of looking at the positive things that you've achieved in your life and the positive things, and sort of building on those rather than the negative stuff?
It really is. It's more about what we do in Rapid Transformational Therapy. We do regression. So we go back to the scenes in your life where you have acquired a certain belief. And I can talk about myself rather than other people, because I've done RTT on myself as well with other therapists. And I had a belief that I thought I'm not good enough, and that was mainly due to experiences that I had with my father, where whatever I did, it was always, well, you could have been better. Or if I was really bad, he said, well, you could have really failed, because then at least you would have really failed. So even that wasn't good enough if I failed only halfway. And so in the therapy,
his feedback to you was always kind of negative.
Yes, it was always
negative.
Yeah, I could have done better. I could have done more. It was never good enough. And so for me, never good enough, kind of as a child, because the thing is, mustn't forget that you create these beliefs when you are only 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. And at that time, when you're here, you're not good enough, and you don't, for example, get the love and affection that you would crave as a child, and you don't get it. The child's mind believes, somehow I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough to get the affection. My dad's not giving me the hugs, so maybe there's something wrong with me. Looking back as an adult, that makes no sense, because every child is lovable and deserves love. But from a child's mind perspective, there's a belief then all of a sudden that I'm not good enough, I don't deserve to be loved. And the problem is that this belief then stays with you subconsciously. And you will always have this belief subconsciously and basically live according to it, even though you're not aware of it. All you notice is that later in life, you just don't get those hugs that you so crave. And that's because you have this underlying subconscious belief.
Is that because you're not giving the hugs out in the first place?
Could be, yes, absolutely, could be. And what we do in RTT is we go back to those scenes, and then it's like taking the old meaning away, because in the end, it's not the experience that you had as a child that has caused it. It's the meaning that you've placed on an experience. And what we can then do is, looking back as an adult, we understand that the meaning was age appropriate. As a child, you couldn't have maybe created a different meaning. As a child, it makes sense. Like, I don't get the hugs, something wrong with me. But if you're an adult, then you understand, well, there's nothing wrong with you. It was the adult who didn't act appropriately, who didn't give you the hugs that you deserved. So then you can kind of disconnect this meaning from the experience and put on the new meaning, saying, yes, you are absolutely lovable. You deserve all the love in the world. And that's what changes, really, then.
Positive stuff. Okay, just one to finish off with then. Pain control. How on earth can it help you with pain control? Surely pain control, you take a pain relief tablet, don't you? Sort of rub some ointment in,
Well, yeah, that would be looking at the symptom. Again, we look at the root causes. And I've had clients, for example, who came to me after chemotherapy and who had nerve pain, for example, unspecified nerve pain, because the myelin sheath of the nerves was compromised through the chemotherapy. And what we do in Rapid Transformational Therapy, we can do something that's called cell command therapy. So while you are in connection with your subconscious mind, you can actually command your cells what you want them to do. So you can command them to recreate the myelin sheath, which in that case, for example, for this client, really helped him that he didn't have any nerve pain after the session. And every time you listen to the recording, he didn't have any nerve pain. And also what happens is, because the cells regenerate themselves, then over the period of time, you just heal your body yourself, so to speak. I've had another client just recently as well in Germany who had unspecified nerve pain, and after the session, 2 or 3 days later, she realized she wasn't asking for her injection anymore because the pain was gone. It was all about commanding your own body to heal yourself, to create the cells as you want them to be.
And do you think that's a continual process in the sense that, I mean, I may be understanding it incorrectly, so correct me if I'm wrong, but so is there something about the way you're thinking about the pain that is causing the pain, as well as maybe what's happened physically? So, I'm not going to stop the question there.
Well, obviously, it's kind of, I mean, I mix two different things, because with the chemotherapy client, that was like a quick fix, so to speak, that we did cell command therapy to help his cells to regenerate. With the other client who had unspecified nerve pain, we did the same as what I explained earlier. We went back in regression to the scenes that had all to do with why, when, where, and how she created this belief that this pain would be something beneficial for her. Because the way the mind works, it always wants to keep us alive. It always wants to do something positive to get us out of a painful situation, and it will find a solution. We never know what that solution is. But once we have removed that reason, so to speak, again, your body can go back to its normal function, and that we can then also support with the cell command therapy, where we command the body to go back to its original coding, so to speak.
So an interesting play with neuroscience for us to feel
super interesting and super effective. I mean, it fascinates me how I've helped a lot of people with this, and it's just super fascinating.
Brilliant. Now, if people want to get in touch with you, Tanya, obviously you've got your website. We know that therapy is not the cheapest thing on the market, is it? How do you sort of organise your pricing structure? Because obviously a lot of therapists charge per session, but I kind of get the impression you go for the quick fix here. So, how sustainable is your business, and what sort of prices are people paying, and what do they get for it?
Yeah, so if you come just for the one session, if you have one issue, then basically my fee is £350, but that includes everything from having like the first initial conversation and also having the intake session. The session itself is normally 2.5 to 3 hours long. And you'll also get all the kind of follow-up afterwards. So if you have any questions after the session, any things that you notice, anything that you want to ask me about, that you can contact me at any time. I follow up with you a week afterwards, and also 2 or 3 weeks after the session to check if everything is going well. The thing is that you could just as well, if you go for other kind of therapies, it's probably cheaper, but then you have to come more times. And in this case, you come once, and you have, like if you go for stop smoking, you can smoke up £350 very, very quickly. And if you then stop smoking for the rest of your life, £350, I think, is a very worthy investment.
Brilliant. That's lovely. Tanya, thank you much indeed for coming in and speaking to us today. Now, your website is tanyasperling.com, correct?
That's correct, yes.
And all the information you can be found there.
Absolutely.
Lovely. So thanks to Tanya then. That's Tanya Sperling. She's a rapid transformational therapist and hypno coach. Further information from her website, www.tanyasperling.com. And we've got some fabulous music to play for you between now and 12 o'clock. Kicking off with this one, the wonderful Mr. Al Green on 92.6. Good morning.